1.1 liter turbo diesel 4-cylinder, 6,300 pounds, and built to hold a giant missile launcher. We're talking about the Toyota Mega Cruiser. This is cars you didn't know existed. The Toyota Mega Cruiser was produced from 1995 to 2002. At first they were made just for the Japanese military and defense forces, but later they ended up making a few civilian models. Now of the 3,000 total they made, unfortunately only 150 or less of them, depending on the source you get them from, were made for civilians. Now these engines had a beautiful 150 horsepower and 280 foot-pounds of torque, 4-wheel drive, locking hubs, and 4-wheel steering. Come on! Now this bad mamma jamma could fit about 6 people extremely comfortably, but were known to carry up to 14 people. That's a whole bus, man. That's a whole bus. Now that incredible 150 horsepower and 280 foot-pounds of torque ran through a beautiful 4-speed transmission from the Land Cruiser. Did I mention it can hold a missile launcher? Now all of these units were sold in Japan, so there are only about 12 of them that are left-hand drive. They also weren't very popular as civilian cars at all because of how extremely wide they were. And in Japan, there was actually a tax code enforced on them if you bought them because they were too wide for the Japanese streets. To be specific, about 85 inches wide. That's about a lot more than that, like a lot more than that. Maybe if there was like 2 of me doing this, you might be able to get close. It's pretty freaking crazy. It's so wide. They actually have 3 windshield wipers on the front to accommodate for the width and 2 windshield wipers on the rear. That's a total of 5 windshield wipers on one vehicle, just because it's so dang wide. Now these Mega Cruisers, just pretty much being built for the military and defense forces, aren't really built for our roads. They ride kind of stiff, they have a few little issues here and there, but in the end, it is a nice Toyota. Now being that these vehicles were made for rough terrain and off-roading, the ground clearance was a huge factor in these Toyotas. Something as simple as having inboard brakes and axles that connect above the center of the wheel were something huge to help give this thing the ground clearance it needed. The axles, they call them portal something. They call them portal axles, and it's because basically they come up in through the hub, and then there's a set of gearing that actually takes it down into the actual wheel itself. So it comes out here for the wheel and goes in there for the axle. It's really weird. I haven't heard of it, but for them to have this kind of technology in 1995 to build this thing, pretty dang cool. They're also independent suspension, which I thought was pretty neat. No solid diffs. You can launch missiles from one. Now, a lot of people believe that the Mega Cruiser and the Hummer H1 were about the same exact thing, but very mistakenly, they are not. These were completely different vehicles, although being made for the same purpose is why they resemble each other in so many different ways. Looks especially. Now, the H1 has more of the sharp, aggressive look to it. The Toyota's a little bit more purpose-built for what it's doing, doesn't have all the flashy looks and everything, but that's never what it was meant for. One of the complaints of the Hummer was there was not enough room in the back seats to actually sit any amount comfortably. The Toyota extended the middle cab there, so you have a lot more room in the back seats. Helps a lot if you're a passenger. Plus, when you take a look at the inside, it's very easy and evident that it is 100% a Toyota. It has the buttons from the Land Cruiser, the steering wheel that looks like it came straight off a Toyota Camry, and the whole thing just breathes, eats, sleeps Toyota. Another big thing, the Humvee did not have 4-wheel steering. That was exclusive just to the Toyota. Now, the 4-wheel steering only worked at lower speeds, but that's when you need it the most. When you're crawling through a tight area and you need to not make a 12-point turn, the Humvee was taking a loss, the Toyota was taking a win. Now, I love the old Humvee too, but today we're talking about the damn missile launcher Mega Cruiser. Did I mention it has a missile launcher on top? Another thing too is they were a lot easier to drive than an H1. See, the H1 had a lot smaller windows and was a little bit harder to see out of in different areas. The Toyota, on the opposite, bigger windows, less blind spots, a lot easier to drive on a normal road, and is not just meant for off-roading when you feel like it. Now, when you get inside one of these Mega Cruisers, you will notice it is kind of clustered. Everything sits up so high, everything is thrown in there, and everything is kind of in your way. That's because to get the ground clearance needed, they had to shove all the drivetrain, all the different components that would sit underneath the vehicle up about half a foot harder. So your whole entire drivetrain is pretty much sitting next to you on your armrest. Another cool feature this had that the Hummers also had was central tire inflation. This allows you to air down and air up as you needed depending on what conditions you were in, which was very useful, not having to get in and out, especially the ones that were being used when they needed to be used. Now the Toyota was a little bit taller than the Humvee, but it was about an entire foot longer, and that's partially because of having that extra room for the passengers in the rear. Now it is a little bit narrower, which is pretty crazy considering how wide the Toyota is. But more importantly, it was about an entire 1,000 pounds lighter than the Humvee. Another really weird random thing I saw that I thought was neat, it's got a choke inside the car. You haven't seen that for a long time, so that's pretty neat to me. Some other notable features about the Mega Cruiser, it's got a pull-out little step stool in the back where the bumper separates in case you need to get up onto the top. And if that's not good enough, a factory ladder. You know the things people put on their Jeeps and stuff? Them little thingies? This is a real one from the factory. Now, if you would like to get your hands on one of these, they're a little difficult. They've been in Japan for the entirety of their lives up to this point. The only reason we're slowly starting to see more and more is because of the 25-year import law with Japan. So now finally, you might actually see a Mega Cruiser or two. Don't get your hopes up though, because unfortunately there's not a lot of them. Especially if you're looking for left-hand drive, only being about 12 of them, it's going to be a tough search. The few people that do own them have nothing bad to say about them. They are some of the best off-roaders Toyota ever made and created some of the technology we have today with Toyota, all because of this Mega Cruiser. This Mega Cruiser could easily be a dream car for anybody, including myself. This is something I would absolutely love to have one day. Money pending. The Mega Cruiser is something I wish they made more of, just because they're such an awesome off-roader, such capable vehicles. I love them, I love them, I love them. The old Mega Cruiser's got me stuttering over my words. Anyway, that's the Mega Cruiser for you. Check it out, look up some videos online. There's some pretty awesome vehicles out there, and this is one of them. Thanks for watching vehicles that you didn't know existed. I'm out. Did I mention it had missile launchers?